Check, check. Mic check. You there, Jeremy?
Hey, Risky. What's going on, man? How's everything going?
Everything's good. Everything sounds good. You ready to do this?
Yeah, let's get started.
All right, let's do it. This is Golf Nation Podcast, the show that brings you interviews with the best and brightest people in the industry. Join us for a round as we learn about their life, business, and so much more. Golf isn't just about playing the game, it's about connecting with others and getting away from our everyday lives. Now here's your host and the CEO of Golfcritiquecom, Jeremy Lee.
Golf Nation, you are listening to episode 34 of the Golf Nation podcast, and we are honored to have today's guest with us. He is currently the director of golf at Grandfather Mountain Golf and Country Club, and among other accolades, he was inducted into the Carolinas PGA Section Hall of Fame in 2014, the same year as Peggy Kirkbell, originally from Toronto, Canada, but is now residing in the beautiful mountains of Linville, North Carolina. Please help me welcome Mr. Chip King. Chip, how are you?
I'm doing just great. Thanks for having me with you.
Absolutely. Well, we're definitely excited to have you on the show, and really looking forward to a lot of great conversation about what's happening up in Asheville and the Asheville area, and then obviously some of your time down here in the Sandhills of North Carolina.
Good deal.
All right, so let's jump into it. You know, we're going to talk a little bit about. I really definitely want to get into Grandfather. I mean, it's just an unbelievable track up there in the mountains, and I just want to kind of talk about your journey and kind of your connection to the Sandhills and the Pinehurst area. But just kind of give us a little bit of background into, kind of how you got to the position you are in today.
Sure, well, I'm happy to. First of all, I need to clear something up because my members will kill me if they see the word mountain in our name. It's really Grandfather Golf and Country Club. We're at the base of Grandfather Mountain, which is one of the most beautiful places in the world, but it's Grandfather Golf and Country Club. The mountain is up there, and I remember very clearly my first season here, I did the same thing. I called it Grandfather Mountain. I was giving a speech someplace. One of my members pulled me aside and said, Chip, the mountain is a tourist attraction. Grandfather Golf and Country Club is this country club here, and I've never forgotten that. So we're Grandfather Golf and Country Club. But I came here, guys, in 2007 after spending all of my career in the U.S. in the Pinehurst area. And it's kind of an interesting story, and I'll tell it if you have time, or you can ask me some questions. So you need to let me know how much you want.
Yeah, give it to us all.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, we love the history.
All right. Well, it's a great story. I grew up in Toronto, Canada, so I was a hockey player in the wintertime and a golfer in the summertime. And, Canadians are equally passionate about golf as they are hockey. And there's sort of a natural flow from hockey into golf. Matter of fact, Toronto was the third largest golf market in North Carolina, in North America.
Wow.
So it's a big deal, and golf is huge, and of course the days are a little longer up there, so members can and folks can play golf until 10 or 11 o'clock in the evening. But I started playing golf with my dad. I was 13 years old, and he was in his 30s, and he joined a country club, a local country club north of Toronto, and we started playing golf at the same time. So he was my hockey coach, and he was my golf guy too. So that was really kind of cool.
That's awesome.
And I was one of those. I was smitten by the sport, and was one of those kids that hung around the golf shop way too much. So they finally give you a job. They want to keep you busy and out of their hair. So I pick balls in the range. I'd do anything I could do to justify being there all day. And when I finally got time to go to college, it became a wonderful summer job for me, because back in those days, this would have been in the early 70s, you could actually pay your way through school by working in the summertime. You certainly couldn't do that now. But I could make enough money in the summer to pay my tuition for the fall and spring semesters at college. And so I went to school in Toronto and worked at the local golf club as a golf professional in the summertime. And then the fellow was my mentor that I worked for at the golf club at Muskoka Lakes north of Toronto, said, Chip, if you want to be a success in this business, you've got to go to the United States. And I heard him loud and clear, and with my parents' permission, I packed up everything I owned into into a Gremlin. It was a brand new car. Paid $3,500 for it. You guys don't even know what a Gremlin is, probably.
I do not know what a Gremlin is.
Yep.
Yeah,
it was.
It was made by American Motors, and you've never heard of American Motors, I'll bet.
No, is that pre?
Chrysler bought them after a while.
Oh, Chrysler, pre-Chrysler.
I actually didn't know that.
Yeah. Look up Gremlin sometime on your computer. It's a very interesting car. But at any rate, I packed it up, and away I came. And I would stop in the Pinehurst area, sort of as my treat. I worked in Florida for one winter, and always stopped in the Pinehurst area, sort of my treat between the Canadian and American seasons. And fell in love with the Pinehurst area, and got a really crudely done resume. And I would shudder to think what people would think of it now. And I started cold calling golf clubs in the Pinehurst area, just literally cold calling them. This was 1976. And got to the gate of the Country Club of North Carolina and had no idea what was on the other side of that gate. Just knew there was a golf course in there, and I wanted to hand somebody my resume. So that's basically like getting to the gate at Grandfather, right? They don't let you in. But somehow or other, I talked my way through the gate, got to the golf shop, and Buck Adams, who was the legendary golf professional and the only golf professional there since it had opened, was in the golf shop, which never happened. Buck was never there, and he hired me on the spot.
Wow.
So I was allowed to go through the gate and into one of the most highly respected golf clubs really in North America at the time, and went to work for one of the most highly respected golf professionals in North America at the time. And it was all because I was allowed in the gate, and it's a great story. So it really launched my career, and had I not had that opportunity, I can tell you without question I would not have had the career that I've had. And Buck put me to work, and I was there for 3 years as one of his assistant golf professionals. And back in those days, fellas, golf was exploding so quickly they couldn't find enough golf professionals to staff the new facilities they were building. And, of course, everybody knew of the Country Club of North Carolina's reputation and Buck Adams' reputation, that they would call him when they were ready to open up a club and say, Buck, who's ready? Who do you have ready to come and run our facility for us? And so he was well known for turning guys out, and we were kind of fondly known as Buck's boys. And so 3 years later, it was my turn to go, and Highland Country Club in Fayetteville needed a golf professional, and so it was a great opportunity for me, and a great Donald Ross golf course in Fayetteville, one of the last ones that Ross actually built. And then 3 years later, an opportunity came up at Mid Pines in the Pinehurst area. I wanted to come back to Pinehurst. Debbie and I were having children at the time, and it just made sense for us to be in Pinehurst. That's where she was from. And so I went to work at Mid Pines in 1984. And 10 years later, Peggy Kirk Bell and her family purchased Mid Pines, and I became the director of golf at Mid Pines and Pine Needles in the mid-'90s. And then for my last 5 years there, so this would have been 2002 to 2007, I was the general manager and director of golf. So I ran the hotels and the golf facilities, and then Grandfather came calling. So none of that would have happened, fellas, if I hadn't been able to get through the gate at the Country Club of North Carolina. So I count myself very, very fortunate. So that's how I ended up here. And it's really interesting because Grandfather is loosely patterned after the Country Club of North Carolina. GC&C opened in 63. We opened in 68. And our owner here, original owner here, was enthralled with what had been done at GC&C and invited Ellis Maples, who had designed that course, to come up and sort of try to replicate that whole idea here in the mountains. So I'm finishing my career at a club that's very similar and has close ties to a place where I started. So it's kind of an interesting circle.
Yeah, that's a pretty amazing story because we talk about that a lot, just about, it takes drive, it takes tenacity, it takes going out of your comfort zone to get what you want. And if you don't do that, if you just kind of sit back and you just kind of wait for things to come to you, most likely they're just going to keep passing by. But if you take a little bit of initiative and you go out and you say, you know what, I'm going to risk breaking through those gates. I'm going to try whatever I can to get through those gates to introduce myself. And you're proof that works.
Yeah. It was a horrible resume, but he hired me on the spot. So I was very, very fortunate. And I spend a lot of time with our young people that work with me here on my team at Grandfather. And we talk about that very thing, how important it is to build their network and to tell their story and to not wait for it to come to them, but to go out and take it themselves. And so it's yeah, exactly. And you have to have a little bit of luck too. I think you just have to be fortunate.
Oh, luck is definitely something that you got to have on your side. I mean, a little luck never hurts anybody. But let's get into a little bit about your time at Mid Pines and the Sandhills. Do you have a top 10 or maybe a top 5 list of courses in the Sandhills that you would recommend?
Well, absolutely. I mean, Mid Pines is really very, very close to my heart, and it's been recently redone by Kyle Franz, and it's outstanding. So I think Mid Pines is my favorite golf course down there. Pine Needles is certainly a very close second. We hosted 3 women's opens while I was there, and of course, number 2 is a great, great golf course. I particularly like number 8, the Fazio course, which is outstanding. And then the Palmer course, which is now number 9, the Pinehurst, we used to be called Pinehurst National, I really do like as well. I have not played the new number 4. It was redone several times while I was in the Pinehurst area. And, of course, it's been redone again, and it's getting rave reviews, but I've not had a chance to play it. But Mid Pines certainly is number 1 for me.
Yeah, number 4 is interesting. I've actually had the chance to play number 4 since Gill redesigned it, and it's interesting. Some people it's like a love-hate, I think, because a lot of people liked the kind of Augusta look of it, and it was so much different than number 2, and then some people love that they've changed it to more look like number 2, but some people are like, I wish it was a little bit more variety. But it's still a great golf course. I don't think it's as difficult as number 2. Definitely, they made the greens a lot more inviting. It's still difficult, but it's not. I think somebody could really go low if they wanted to. I think a kid has already went really, really low on that golf course. So, it just kind of depends on the type of player that you are and what you like.
Yeah. And I think, sort of this new wave of Core Crenshaw and all the rest creating these link style golf courses where less is more, quite honestly, where there's less grass and there's more natural areas. And, making the point that golf does not have to be overwatered and overgrassed all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, that's sort of the point that they're making. And it's fun golf where the ball is, and I've grown to love that type of golf where the ball is moving on the ground and you're shaping shots and you're getting weird bounces, sometimes lucky, sometimes unlucky. But that seems to be where golf course architecture is now. So it's less about the lushness of it and it's more about the creativity of it. And that's kind of cool. And we'll probably go back to more lush at some point in time, but certainly, with what they're doing at Bend and Dunes and certainly what they're doing in the Sandhills, which lends itself perfectly to that type of golf course, it seems to be where golf course architecture is right now.
Yeah, I agree. But I mean, a little bit probably is a little bit of the cost of golf. We've got to figure out a way to drive that cost down. We both know that the cost is on the maintenance of the golf course. And if we can create a more sustainable and natural golf course that costs less to maintain, that's a win-win-win, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. And certainly, on the East Coast, we have humidity and water. Like, most of the time at the West Coast, they're starving for water. And so, we'll stay wet naturally. But finding water out west is a difficult thing to do. So these new turfs and the sort of hard and fast look and brown is the new green kind of deal sort of lends itself perfectly to where golf is going to have to be sustainable, I think.
Yeah, especially in the warm season areas, I think, as we're continuing to get warmer and warmer. It's easier to do definitely down here in the south, but those boys in the north, I don't know how easy that's going to be because it still gets pretty warm. It's not like Ireland where it stays cold pretty much all year long. I mean, reasonably cold, not cold all the time, but you're still getting in the 80s or 90s up north, and so to kind of make those cool season grasses. And Risky, we're going to get into Grandfather, and I'm a little disappointed. You worked at Grandfather, and you made me call it Grandfather Mountain. I'm pretty disappointed in you, Risky.
Yeah, I won't lie. I never got told that once there. I don't know if it's just the Boone still in me, where it's natural for me to just automatically say Grandfather Mountain. But yeah.
Yeah, well, You're not the only one, believe me. But that has stuck with me. And this fellow became a real mentor of mine, a great friend.
Oh,
and it stuck with me. So, hey, I wasn't being critical. It happens all the time.
Yeah,
My first year at the
you.
PGA, my first year at the PGA show, I was hired in on January 10th, and I'm going to the PGA show on the 25th, and I ordered my name tag, and my name tag said Grandfather Mountain on it. So I did the same thing, guys.
Well, we don't feel so bad now because at least I've actually never been there, and I can't wait to learn a little bit more about it. But how long have you been there at Grandfather?
I came here in 2007. So what is that? I'm in my 13th season.
13 years.
Mm-hmm.
13 years.
Yeah.
Now, did you get to? I take it that you got to spend a lot of time with Peggy Kirk-Bell and Kelly Miller as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they were my bosses, and I reported directly to Kelly, and but Mrs. Bell was in my office all the time. She was a matriarch of the family, and she became a great friend, and I loved her. She was great, and I learned a lot from her. Just watching her interact with her guests, and sort of this gracious hospitality that what Mrs. Bell was all about. I learned about the business with Kelly. He's a business person, great guy. We became very good friends. But Mrs. Bell was just a very, very special lady. And then with all of the golf instruction we were doing there, I mean, she was, she pioneered women's instruction. And so I was running all of those golf schools with her, and the opportunity to interact with her and watch her instruct, and then all the wonderful instructors that she would bring in to help us with the golf schools. I was like absorbing as much as I could absorb just being around her.
Yeah, I wish we had some videos of Peggy. I mean, I think
I was just about to say that.
It would be really cool because we have an entertainment side to Golfcritiquecom, and occasionally we do like partner reviews and different things like that. We're gonna have to try to track down some and see if they'll let us put it on there. Let people or let the world experience. We hear all kinds of great stories about her. When Kelly was on a couple weeks ago, he was telling us how she was driving the ball past him, and it was amazing how far she could hit the ball.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and I was honored that I was the only non-family member that spoke at her funeral, and I told the story there of I don't know whether you've been to Pine Needles, but there's a big, huge glass window at the back of the golf shop, overlooking the putting green, most of the practice facility, and the 18th hole, which is where Mrs. Bell lived. I'm looking out there one day, and all of a sudden I see her car. I'm talking about her automobile, big old Lincoln Continental. Her family affectionately referred to it as the tank. I see it driving across. Yeah, I see it driving across the 18th fairway, crossing into the first fairway, onto the driving range, goes down to the far end of the driving range, gets out of her car, hits a few balls, gets in her car, and so drives right back the same way. And what happened, I guarantee you what it happened. Yeah, and only Mrs. Bell was allowed to do that. But she did it. And I guarantee you she was sitting in her den, and a swing putt, something came to her head that she wanted to go try, and she didn't have a golf cart, but the only mode of transportation was her car, so away she went. That was just this sort of the eccentricity of her. She was that way, but in such a wonderful way. And she was great. Some of my favorite memories at Pine Needles were her just coming into my office and just spending a day with me, or an hour with me, just talking about what we were planning to do with the golf schools and about life in general, about her kids and her grandchildren. Those are some of my favorite memories.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, so, I mean, going back to Grandfather, what really stood out to you about it, about the course, the clubhouse, anything that made you, like, really decide to be there as long as you have?
Well, they sort of hired me toward the end of my career, so I really wasn't interested in going anywhere after this. And the opportunity to come back to a private club really did appeal to me. I've been at the resort many times in Pine Needles. So, I would tell my staff that, we're a private club. We just have members to turn over every 3 days. Here, of course, you can develop long relationships. And so the opportunity to come back to a private club and finish my career at a place that's so highly respected and with such a wonderful group of members. And, and I tell people all the time that, you can be at the greatest golf club in the world, and you could make an argument that Grandfather certainly is among that group in one of the most beautiful settings. And I don't think you could find a setting any greater than this, but really it's the community of people that are here that make this club so distinct.
Absolutely.
And this is a wonderful, it's really a wonderful community of people. And they're in a particular frame of mind here that's a little bit different than, say the local, the best country club in town or whatever, because people here are not coming after a day of work with all of the stresses of work, or they're not in a hurry to go mow the lawn after their Saturday round to take the kids to soccer practice. So they're in a much different frame of mind, and they engage with my staff in a very different way than you normally would get at a typical country club. And that's great. They invite us into their lives. They're genuinely interested in my team, and we grow, we grow really cool relationships with all of our members here. So we're part of a family. Now I just visit this family, every morning and leave in the evening. They're a part of it all the time, of course. But they've been just wonderful to me. So it's really the community of people that makes a difference here at Grandfather. And I didn't know that coming in. I've discovered it since. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't imagine being anywhere else other than Grandfather.
Yeah, other than
you guys, I've got the best job in school.
Yeah, I definitely got that community feeling during my time there. I only worked one summer inside the clubhouse underneath Melissa. I'm sure you remember her.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, but it was great. Like the interactions that I had with all the members and their guests, like no matter what it was, they were always pleasant. I enjoyed talking to everybody, the staff, like everybody gets along so well there, and it's so friendly. Exactly what you said. It's just a different atmosphere, like being up there in the mountains. Everybody obviously loves that area because they live there, and so everybody's just happy. Like driving across that bridge, like into over the little pond, like looking up, seeing the Mile High Bridge right there every morning, like it was awesome. It makes going to work there fun, and I feel like that puts like the staff in a good mood too when you're in such a beautiful place. It just makes everybody more happy. I don't know. Yeah. It's so funny. It's great. Exactly. It's really great. Yeah. Actually, a funny thing, they had me on Saturdays. I would do the 10th tee like grill out thing. I would be out there.
Okay.
Do you still do that?
Oh yeah, they still do it. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
That's a staple on busy days.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love doing that too. I like being outside the clubhouse and talking to all the members, starting to tee off on the 10th hole, pouring like beers out of kegs and stuff. Like it was great. It was so funny. They always tell me like, no foam, fill that sucker all the way up. Oh yeah. And then seeing a bear on the 10th fairway that one time, that was crazy. Blew my mind. But yeah, I mean, I just love it out there. I love talking about it too. I can't wait for you to go out there sometime, Jeremy.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a special place.
Yeah, and so yeah, go ahead.
And a great golf course too.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the golf course because I mean, there's
two actually.
Oh, you have two golf courses at your Grandfather. So you're a 36-hole facility, and you had Ellis Maples design. Did he design both of them?
Yes. Yeah. We have the championship course that sort of everyone knows us by. It's ranked number 2 in the state and top 100 and all of that. And then Mountain Springs, which is a par 59 short course that was designed and built about 3 or 4 years after the big course opened up in 1968. So Mountain Springs opened up in the early 70s. And it's a combination of par 3s and par 4s. And it's a wonderful place. Actually a really fun golf course to play with some unique holes, and takes you way up the mountain before you come back, and some tremendous views. It's a lot of fun, and it's gets a relatively good amount of play. It's perfect for families, and it helps us as sort of a release valve for when we don't have enough tee times on the big course to take care of people, which has certainly been an issue this year with all the members spending their entire summer with us. Mm-hmm. Mountain Springs is getting a lot more play right now, and the club is spending, is spending more dollars up there to maintain it, which is great. And so Mountain Springs is a wonderful par 59 experience, and of course the big course is it's hard to find an equal.
Yeah, I've heard so many great things. I'm originally from Kentucky, and so I haven't been here for about a couple of years now, almost going on 3 years now. And so, it's I just keep hearing wonderful things, and I'm excited to get there one day. I mean, obviously it's extremely high end private. People, it's hard to get through the gates. You're gonna have the same experience when you're coming to the gates, just like you did with CCNC. But can you kind of give us, just for somebody who's never been there before, from your eyes,
Sure.
What are they going to experience when they come to Grandfather?
Well, we'll talk about the golf course first. Hopefully they'll get a wonderful, gracious welcome when they arrive. But the golf course itself, I mean, and this is really very unique in sort of a real estate driven development, which is what Grandfather was in the late 60s. Ellis Maples was given direction that members were to never see one hole from another. So every hole is its own individual entity. You never see another golf hole. So when you're playing the golf course, you're on a hole and you don't see other players, which is very unique when you think about it. In a residential development, usually the real estate area gets the prime real estate and the golf course gets what's left over. Well, it's exactly the opposite here at Grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
So with that in mind, you're on this sort of, you're playing each hole as an individual unit, and views of the mountain and views of the natural rivers and that sort of thing are all capitalized on. So you cannot play a hole without a view of the mountain. You cannot play a hole without having to cross a creek or a river. And the golf course is just really, really fun. And it's a very walkable golf course, guys. It's down in a valley. So we're in the valley below the mountain. So I would say somewhere between 25 and 30% of our rounds are walking rounds here, where members are carrying their own clubs or pushing a trolley, which when you think of a mountain golf course, you'd never think of that.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, exactly. So golf is being played as it was intended to be played, with your golf bag on your back or you're pushing a trolley, and you're walking the turf and you're crossing the bridges on your feet rather than on a golf cart, and you're really getting a better sense for the beauty of the place. And so I think there are several things that make it unique in that way. You don't see any other golfers, and you're walking that turf, and you're not getting exhausted going up and downhill. And it's a very fair golf course to play. It's challenging, right? They used to do ACC tournaments here back in the day, and so there's been a lot of competitive golf played here at Grandfather. Not so much anymore, other than member events. And this golf course can hold its own. Par 72 and measures over 7,000 yards, and typically it's wet because this is a rainforest here. So you don't get a lot of release and roll because it rains pretty much every day, but the environment needs that to survive. And so you got to keep it in play, because these big tall trees on either side of the fairways, and it's hard to find a ball in those rhododendrons. But a lot of fun to play and very fair.
Do you feel like the ball travels a little bit further up there in the mountains, like it does out in Colorado?
Yeah, I think.
Are you that high?
We're at about 3,500 feet down here where the golf shop is. I think the course at its highest point might be 4,000 feet, and I'm figuring it's about a half a club difference.
Oh,
so it's not like you're in the Rockies where it's not like in the Rockies where you're getting 2 clubs difference. It's about a half a club here. But it certainly makes you feel good about yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's right. You're like, I got this.
Yeah, for sure.
I got my 200-yard 7-iron.
Yeah, it helps when you're teeing off downhill too, and there's like 200 feet of elevation change on the hole.
What's your?
We're not gonna give you that. We're in the valley.
What is your favorite hole at Grandfather?
Well, number 8 is probably the most photographed hole, because you make the turn onto number 8T, and then you have this beautiful vista of Grandfather, sort of back up behind the green. So it's just a wonderful. It's a marvelously designed hole. It kind of takes your eye on up the mountain. So that's a great hole. And the 18th hole is being reworked even as we speak. We did some work on the lake. We have a big lake here. It was the damming of the Linville River back in the day, and we had a dredge project that's just being completed, and we reworked the shoreline of the 18th hole. So I think 18, a terrific golf hole to finish your round, has become an unbelievably great golf hole. We're going to open it up next week to the members. We've been a 17-hole golf course all summer long.
Oh wow!
And we've become an 18-hole golf. Yeah, we've become an 18-hole golf course next Saturday, actually.
That's
and,
awesome.
We'll have a grand reopening event. It's going to be awesome. And number 18 is going to be a really cool hole. Really cool hole.
Well, I bet they will be very excited about that. It's always tough when you got to kind of navigate the waters with memberships, saying, you know what, you're going to pay memberships, but we're going to take a hole away from you. Did you reroute them? Did you let them play an 8, or did you play them 17, or did you have them play another one just to get handicap scores?
No, we played 17. We were a 17-hole golf course, and they got to put down par plus their handicap. So everyone's handicap went down a little bit because they didn't have to play the 18th hole. And I got into the shuttle business. One of my staff members operates I have a shuttle bus that drives through the neighborhood to bring people back home from all the walkers back home from 17 Green. They'll be happy to play the hole. I'll be happy to be out of the shuttle business.
Yeah, no, I bet that probably is quite a haul for.
That's pretty convenient.
Yeah,
that's nice.
Well, nice.
Exactly.
Well, as you know, Golfcritiquecom is basically our brand new search engine in golf. We are trying to become the best search engine anywhere in the game. Our platform puts more back to the golf course, to the partner, to the instructor, to the resort than any other platform on the web, in my opinion. And so, although private clubs, there's no access to private clubs or anything like that, but it's still a search engine. It's still a great way people can see what you're about, see information about, maybe membership. Are you guys still taking members, or are you guys closed for membership?
Well, our memberships here are basically all linked to real estate. So, in order to come in the gate, you've got to own a piece of property here, and it's sort of been that way from the beginning. We have a few memberships now that permit you to live outside the gate, but by and large, everybody lives in the gate. And because the club's been here for more than 50 years now, the club is full, right? So the only way to come in is for someone to be leaving. So that's how it works.
Well, maybe we'll have the opportunity. I know we wanted to come up and do this podcast in person, and we're dealing with COVID issues and stuff like that, but maybe, just maybe, we could get a little love from you, Chip, and get to see this beautiful golf course in person, hopefully one day, and see why it's probably one of the best in the world of any golf course.
I know if we do get up there, I'm definitely hitting the 10 T grill, and I'm definitely getting myself one of those big old juicy burgers and a nice wicked weed pernicious.
We got a new grandfather IPA that you got to try. It's pretty good.
Oh, really? That sounds awesome.
Chip,
oh my gosh,
Chip, that sounds like an invite.
There you go. Come on, I'd love to have you up. It's just with this COVID year, it's just been so different that we're not the club isn't permitting any guests. So this is a member-centered summer, and they're keeping me busy enough right now.
No, and I think that's great. I think sometimes you just have to take the higher road. You got to do what's best for the members. You got to do what's best for the club, just to make sure. Thankfully, golf is booming right now, and I don't think golf took as big of a hit as people thought they were going to take a hit. This spring, I think we were all freaking out a little bit, and then all of a sudden everything kind of opened up a little bit, just enough where golf is pretty much really the only thing that could be done during all of this. And so I hate to say it, but I think COVID has actually been a benefit to the game.
Well, I think ultimately, fellas, this really was the turning point that the game needed, because people have re-engaged with the sport. We're introducing a ton of people, new members or members that have not played golf before, to the game, and I think this is going to be the launching pad for a really great decade of interest in golf. We've all been trying to figure out ways to grow the game, and little did we know COVID-19 would come along that would do it for us, and that's a sad thing, but it's also been very beneficial for the game. So I could be more pleased. We're not touching flag sticks. Rounds are being played quicker. I've got people walking and falling back in love with the game. I haven't ridden a golf cart yet when I've been playing this year. Mm-hmm. And, it reminds me of what it was like when I was growing up. And I'm sure it's the same for all my members. So there's a different appreciation for the game right now. So not only is it the only distraction or the only thing you can do, it's something that we're all kind of falling back in love with again, which I think is great.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's great. And I want you to just do a couple final comments on that about, I believe that the game, it's got great exercise, it's great community, and I think that's another thing that COVID has done is it's kind of brought everybody back together. We're not just into our phones all the time. We're trying to find other things to do with our families. Can you just do some quick final comments about, what the experience is that do you think golf brings to somebody, why somebody should pick up golf and why they should take up this great game and what they can get from it?
Sure. Well, I think the first thing, quite aside from the physical activity and the ability to walk and do that sort of thing, I think not having to rely on a teammate, but sort of having to deal with this yourself, having to control your mind and your body at the same time, making decisions, controlling yourself and hitting the ball, with a stick toward a target with stuff in between that can get you into trouble. So I think it's great, particularly for young people, because it teaches them to focus and to control their emotions when things don't go well. And I think, too, the relationships that are built through this game, I think, are far-reaching. I played hockey. I was a team member, and I still have relationships with a lot of those guys that I played hockey with way back in the day. But no relationships are stronger, I think, than you build through golf. Just because you're spending 4.5 hours or 4 hours together walking a fairway, or even if you're riding a golf cart, you're spending time with people as opposed to this sort of quick-paced society we live in where you're spending time with people in very short snippets.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, other sports, you're kind of like tennis, you're hitting a ball back and forth. So you're not engaged with that individual like you are with golf, where you're all kind of doing the same thing and you're walking in the same direction. And you're waiting politely for them to go so when it's your turn. So I think there are tremendous life lessons that can be learned from golf and relationships that can't be formed, I don't think, in any other way. And, I do a lot of member trips. I take folks to places like Bandon or Scotland and even, those opportunities to spend time together socially after a round of golf. I don't think there's any other sport that gives you that, So it's pretty special in that regard. It's a very special game in that regard.
Yeah, honestly, I never really thought about it like that before, but it makes total sense. You are just like, you're competing against the other players, but you're more so competing against yourself to improve yourself, and you do build some good camaraderie with your foursome there. Yeah.
So think about this. So when that got inside the gate, that was kind of a cool phrase. I just came up with another one. You're walking in the same direction. I need to trademark that.
Definitely.
Well, think about it. That's what you're doing, and it's so unlike other sports. You're not opposing somebody like on a football line or playing tennis or whatever other sport it is, baseball. You're walking in the same direction, and you're hitting the ball in the same direction. That's kind of cool.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. So you're saying like you're not competing against somebody that's trying to take the ball the opposite direction. You guys are both trying to just do the best you can, going in the same direction.
Have the same goal.
Have the same goal in mind.
Yeah. Think of the uniqueness of that. That's pretty cool.
That is very cool.
That is. All right, Chip. Well, I think that's all we got time for today, unfortunately.
All right.
But it was great.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
It's been my pleasure. Yeah, thanks so much for giving me this opportunity. It's been fun talking with both of you, and good luck with Golfcritiquecom. I think this is great. Well done, fellas.
Hey, thanks. We really appreciate it. Let's keep in touch for sure, and try to get up to grandfather sometime. Probably next year.
You bet. All right. Take care, fellas, and best of luck to both of you.
Thanks. All right, everybody. Make sure you check out the show on Golf Hub. If you're not watching it there right now, you definitely should be. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Instagram at Golf Nation Podcast, and on Facebook and Twitter is at Golf Nation Pod. If you have any comments, suggestions, or questions for the show or Jeremy and myself, send us a DM on social media or send us an email at info@golfcritique.com, and it'll go straight to me. That's all I have for him, Jay.
All right, man. Well, thanks for listening, Chip. I can't thank you enough. What a class act. What an inspiration of, a guy that's, just worked his butt off to get to the top, and now you're getting to enjoy the fruits of your labor at what it's to be probably one of the best clubs in the world. And I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast and sharing your story with us.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Well, Golf Nation, we'll be back next week with another great episode. But until then, learn as much as you can, live your life to the fullest, and play golf forever. I'm Jeremy Lee. That's Risky. This is Golf Nation Podcast, and we'll see you on the tee.